My main business is, well, I'm a photographer, but I also do a lot of printing and I do a lot of teaching. For my printing, I have several different printers. I actually run Epson. As much as I hate Epson, I love Epson, so I've stuck with Epson over the years. I run 4 different printers. I run stuff from wallet sizes all the way up to 44 to 100 inches. I can do it on a variety of different media, from Epson enhanced matte paper all the way up to a metallic paper and everything in between. I got into it actually the back way. For the last 30 years, I've actually worked for a number of different labs. I used to work for Astrophoto way back when Astrophoto was around. I was a regional technician with them. And then I was hired from them to another company, and we won't mention the name because they still are around and I don't like them. And the biggest complaint I had when I was there was people couldn't get prints that they could rely on. And a lot of your labs are set up in such a way that you're there to print the stuff, but you're not there to give people a consistent print. If you brought me in 500 prints when I was at the other lab, I could have them run off for you in an hour and you'd be out the door and you'd be happy. The problem was if you came back in the future and you wanted the stuff reproduced so it looked the same, you couldn't get that. And I had a lot of artists, a lot of painters, a lot of photographers that were coming to me going, what can we do? So I started printing for myself, and then after printing for myself for a while, people said, well, where do you get your stuff printed? I said, well, I actually do it here. And then people go, well, will you do mine? And it kept growing from that point. When you bring your images in, you can either bring them in person, you can email them to me, you can put them on Dropbox, or you can put them on Google Drive. Some people have other ways to get them to me as well. Some people like to FTP them to me and stuff. I try to discourage that because Google Drive and Dropbox is just so easy to use. If you do bring them in, if you're a new customer, I like that you bring them in so we can sit down. I can look at it on my monitor, and at the same time you see it on another monitor, and you're seeing exactly what I see. You're seeing what the printer is going to print out for you, and we can actually check it for different things. And it's funny because a lot of people, when they bring in files, they'll see them on my screen and they'll go, oh shoot, I didn't see that in the picture. And it may be something, a piece of grass sticking out of somebody's face or something that they just did not notice. We can go through, we can double check for quality, we can double check for color. If it is something where the person didn't edit it, we can actually edit it right here. We can make sure it's what they're looking for, and then we can print it. The other nice thing is that when you come in here, I can actually show you the different types of paper that you're going to have your stuff printed on. So most of the papers that I offer are Epson papers, and people wonder why I don't carry all these other different brands that are out there. Well, there's actually a couple reasons. First of all, it's price. People come to me and say, well, will you print on this media? Well, I will print on that media, but you don't understand, it's an $800 roll of paper I have to bring in to do a $50 print. So I try to stock mostly Epson papers because that's what most people are looking for. The second reason I stock mostly Epson paper is just because I can get it. I have a couple different suppliers that I deal with. Epson is the most consistent to get in. So if you come in today and you order a semi-matte, I'll have semi-matte in just about every day that you're going to come here. So some of the papers that I do have to offer are, we start with the most matte paper that's out there, and it's the Epson Enhanced Matte Paper. When I say it's matte, it's 100% matte. There's absolutely no reflection from it. It's an amazing paper, but I always tell people, if you're taking this paper and you're giving it to a client or even to a friend, it has the feel of toilet paper. It's just not a very luxurious piece of paper to print on. The nice thing about it is, though, it has no reflection, so if you're taking it, you're framing it, you're putting it behind glass, it looks amazing behind glass, but you don't want to be handling it because it's really not a very luxurious paper to handle. From that paper, we then go to a semi-matte paper. The semi-matte paper, it's got a little bit more of a sheen than the matte paper, but there's absolutely no reflections that you'll get on it. It's a great paper for putting behind glass again because you don't get that secondary reflection. It's a very nice D-Max and a very nice D-Min, so you're going to get good blacks and you're going to get good whites. Some of the papers that we deal with, you'll actually find that they actually have a color cast to them. The reason being is some of the papers actually do not have additives put into them. So they're very natural and the colors are true. There's not an added white to it. It hasn't been washed with Tide where it's really vibrant. The paper is a very medium paper where you're not getting a lot of different reflective colors off of it. It's a very plain paper. Going from there, we go into something with a little bit more of a gloss to it, and it's actually a luster paper. It's what you would notice at most of your photo labs. Most of the photo labs will either call this a matte paper, some actually will call it a luster paper. There's a little bit of a reflection to it, it's got a pebbly look to it, but it's not really reflective. You can handle it, you do not get a lot of fingerprints on it, it doesn't scratch near as bad as a glossy paper does, and it just overall is a very nice paper to use. From there, we then go into our glossy paper. And glossy paper is exactly what it sounds like. It's got a high gloss to it. Great paper for doing black and whites with, a great paper for doing something that's high contrast, a nightmare paper for reflection. It has to be for the specific area that you're going to use it for. You don't want to be printing people pictures with this, because the problem is you're going to get a lot of reflections on it and you're going to be seeing a lot of glare in the people's faces that you have. Going from the glossy paper, we then go into a more expensive paper, and it's a watercolor paper. This paper has quite a nice texture to it. You can actually hear the texture on it. It's got what's called a high tooth. So if you look at it, the surface actually has a little bit of a wave to it. It's 100% natural cotton paper. It's an amazing paper. The problem with it again is it's very, very flat. It looks great with certain pictures, but not with other pictures. I do a lot of printing on this for my artists that do watercolor paintings and even do oil paintings. So when we do copy work for them, they'll have it printed on this and it looks amazing. From the watercolor paper, we can actually then change the papers. So this paper here is actually a semi-matte paper, but we've added a laminate to it. And the laminate on here, what it will do is it actually protects it, but it actually changes the entire surface of the paper so that it looks completely different than what it was when it was printed. Why do we do this? Well, pretty much it's made it bulletproof. So with this paper here, we can actually take the paper, we can put it in a frame, you don't need glass, it's fully washable, and it looks like there's glass on it. It's a really nice way of finishing your prints, and it also saves you from having glass. Going from there, we then get into using a metallic paper. This one is a pearl metallic paper, and this one is a gloss metallic paper. And with the gloss, you can see the reflection on it. The metallic paper is amazing for specific pictures. And the biggest thing when you have something printed is you have to print on the paper that will make the image look proper. You don't want to walk into a place and say, print all my stuff on glossy, because some pictures are going to look good on glossy, some of them aren't. You don't want to tell the people to print it all on matte, because some will look good, some won't. Same thing with metallic paper. I have people that come in and say, print it on metallic. I've heard metallic is the new greatest thing. So we printed on metallic for them after they've argued with me for 10 minutes that they absolutely wanted it, and they get the print back and they go, it looks horrible. Metallic paper is for specific images. Going from metallic paper, then we get to their last one, and that is actually a canvas paper or canvas media. It's actually not a paper. It's 100% cotton canvas. It can be stretched, and we'll show you some of the prints later that have been stretched. It is fully archivable, and to make it even more archivable, I'm the only person in Southern Alberta that will actually coat your canvases for you. So when you have a canvas done, we coat it and then we stretch it. So it makes it 100% waterproof. And that's all our different medias. All right, so this is one of the canvas prints that I was talking about. It's done on 100% cotton. It is an actual living material. Canvas is actually something that will breathe over time. This has actually been stretched and fully wrapped. So you actually have the wrap around the sides, so your image will continue around all the different sides. And it's fully finished and ready to be hung on the wall. The nice thing about this is it's also fully coated. So you can actually take a wet cloth, you can wash this, and it is fully preserved as it is. So you do not have to worry about it fading or the inks running like you have to at other places. And it's fully archivable and ready to be put up on the wall. All right, so the different printers I have all have different functions in the studio. The 3880s I have this one here, and I have its twin over here. It's for running small stuff from 4x6s up to 11x14, even 16x20s on what we call flat sheet paper. That's your traditional lab type of paper where it has no curl on it. I can run through several hundred prints a day using both printers, or I can use one printer for one job, one printer for another. Whatever I'm looking at, they're very versatile for what they do. This one's loaded here with some 4x6 paper. This one over here is loaded with some 8x10 paper. I can send from my printer or from my computer in the other room to the different printers, and away the job will go. In the back here is it's my old friend, been with me now for, I think it's been about 12 or 15 years. It's an Epson 7600. I actually put it up for sale a number of years ago, and when I bought the bigger one, I thought I would get rid of it. And when I put it up for sale, I had so many people inquire about it, I had to think twice about it. So what I did was I ended up switching this printer over so it runs my watercolor paper, my matte papers, and it's actually got an ink set in it that's specifically designed for doing your matte paper. These two printers, the smaller one as well as the bigger one, can do matte or glossy. The issue is whenever you switch, you lose a lot of ink. In one day, I could end up switching 20 or 30 times. So I run that one just specifically for my matte stuff. It runs a very black ink cartridge on it, and the nice thing about the black ink is when I run it onto the matte paper, the blacks are really black, and I love it for that. Sitting right here is my laminator. This laminator will do up to 25 inches wide, technically 24 inches because I'm not accurate enough to get that extra inch in, and it will run whatever length I want. So all my lamination is done on this machine. I do an encapsulation lamination, so what it is it actually laminates on the top and it laminates on the bottom at the same time. So you're getting a front laminate and a back laminate. One of the reasons I do it is because, one, it protects the image a little bit more. The second reason is because if you only do one side, you tend to have a nasty curl, and that nasty curl can cause a lot of issues when you're trying to have it framed. So this will actually help to get rid of that. And then over on this wall over here is my big guy, and this is an Epson 9900, and this one does everything and anything. It runs up to 44 inches wide, as well it can run up to 100 inches long. It will do a 16x20 print in under 5 minutes, which is a lot quicker than the old one that's sitting on the other wall. That takes actually 19.5 minutes. So one of the reasons I actually switched to it was for the time saving. This will do canvas. This will do all my different media that I want it to do. I actually have it solely dedicated right now that only does my gloss stock and up. Reason being that is because to change this cartridge or to change the ink on this is a little expensive. And when you're looking at an ink cartridge like this, that's several $100s. I think this one here is $5.95. You don't want to go through a lot of these if you can help it. So I try not to do too much switching. So I will use that one for matte, and then I'll use this one for the rest of the stuff. And then against the wall over there, we have our trimming stuff, and we carry a few different frames for those that are in a rush that need it framed right away. So some people ask me why they shouldn't do their own printing at home. Well, I'm not against doing your own printing at home. Obviously, I would love it if you came here. But one of the things that makes me a lot different than if you're doing it at home or even at other different places is every day my printers are run. We run a test on them, and what this test does is it's a nozzle check. And we run a nozzle check to make sure all the nozzles are clear. And if they aren't clear, we run a cleaning program on them so they actually clean them up. If you don't do this at home, you'll end up with pictures that the green grass is actually purple or the purple wall is actually green. This actually ensures that every one of my nozzles on each one of my printers is firing correctly. And if they're firing correctly, it means that all my colors that I require are actually being put down on the paper. If you don't do this at home, the problem that you're going to have is you're going to have a lot of wastage. If you do this at home, you're going to waste ink, obviously, but at least you're getting a good quality print. So if wherever you're having your stuff done, make sure either they're doing it or you're doing a good nozzle check to make sure that the nozzles are working correctly.